So bosses are very special. They will only appear on, I believe it's Minefield on the normal quest. So that's Minefield in the Shadow Man stage on the final level. And they will appear on the final level of any hard mode stage, any Beyond stage, or the final level of any Beyond stage, final level of any Endless Multiverse, and one or more bosses may be present during a daily run. The point of a boss is they will appear on a level. As soon as you make your first click, they will appear where you clicked, and they will behave like a minion. They will wander around one cell every turn, and bear in mind that's every turn. So they're always the only way that things can wander around, and the level will spawn dark hearts. If a boss touches the dark hearts, they will do something bad, usually. Note that a dark heart counts as a normal heart for the purpose of item procs. So, for example, if you have one of the leather armor items, which causes minions to appear in your, familiars to appear in your inventory whenever you collect a heart, bosses will generate a lot of minions for you. You can collect dark hearts. You don't have to. Sometimes it's beneficial, and I'll get into that when we get to those bosses. Also, if you hover over the boss, it will tell you what its effect is. That effect is not always the same every turn for certain bosses. Well, for one boss, but we'll get into that. There are 3 strategies for dealing with a boss that I'm really aware of. That being, and it's a bit trite, but just get good. Bear in mind that a boss activates every turn, and that means that if you are using fewer turns, so if you're cording frequently, if you're using pyros to clean out the board, if you're solving in ways that don't require you to actually click and reveal cells, then the boss is going to have fewer chances to move, fewer chances to do anything to you. So you're not always given the opportunity to do a massive amount of cording. I appreciate that, but be aware that you can deny them opportunities, and that's a big part of what Demoncrawl is about. It's generating opportunities, it's generating information, it's exploiting the resources you have at your disposal. The other one, or the other 2, apparently they're killable. You can do that. I've heard that you can flare them, and I've heard that you can stick them in bubbles. I don't really consider that a strategy too much myself, but only because I've never made it work. That's just my bad luck. So the other one I'd consider viable is if you have Midas's Glove. I haven't had this work for me before because I haven't had the item set required, but apparently Dark Hearts just turn into diamonds if you're at full health, and they just can't do as much. But the final viable strategy, it's spy dependent. But if I go into a level and just demonstrate something real quick, Respite's End, here we go. Right, so I click and I start a level.
Hello.
So you'll notice that spawns a block of solved cells and a block of solved cells with values. And where the Nomad appears, it's round about where the boss is going to appear. Because I'm spy, I can see that there's a 0 up here, so I can just solve these cells, and I can start working in this area, and I can work in any other areas that I could possibly use glean information. A boss will only wander in cells that you have solved. So if you are a spy and you can create an area of solved cells that isn't connected to this area of solved cells, then you've created what I like to refer to as Dumbass Island. He will be stuck here and be unable to go anywhere else. So he might take all the dark arts. It doesn't matter, because while you're up over here and you're doing your thing and solving all of the level, he's just wandering around with his thumb up his backside, unable to do anything to you. Or mostly anything to you. It's a really nice, when it works, it's incredibly satisfying, and it's a very good way of just taking power away from them. But it doesn't always work. I have had a lost shaman just completely stuck in the middle of the board for about 75% of the run. It was fantastic. But to get on to what the actual bosses do, Hellspawn, um, when he collects Dark Hearts, he gives you omens, and he increases stage power when you make mistakes. He's not so bad, unless he gives you really bad omens. Ego can suck or can do literally nothing to you. He creates a trail of cells behind him whenever he moves, and every turn he has a random effect whenever he if you collect a Dark Heart or he collects a Dark Heart, one of the random effects will appear, or will take effect. Either lose 1 health for every burning tile, lose 1 defense for every frozen tile, or lose 10 coins for every electric tile. Keep an eye on him every single turn, and when he comes to lose 10 coins for every electric tile, you're probably encountering him on the last level, because that's usually where you get bosses. So at that point, you're going to want to take just click on all the Dark Hearts, because you're not going to use coins for too much in the final level, unless you find a Harbinger. Which means that if he doesn't have Dark Hearts, he can't do anything to you. Jailkeeper is probably the easiest one to deal with. Seals inventory slots. That's all he does. And if you've made a mistake recently, you can't open your inventory at all until you've opened at least 10 cells. Jailkeeper is fine. Also, when you click in an inventory slot, seal it, so you can't use that slot again. That does mean, though, that you can use a consumable, which causes all your inventory to shift 1 space, and then you can reuse slots that way if you're careful. He's a good way of getting the achievement. I'll get into that later on, actually. Cultist. People maintain that Cultist is the worst. If you don't make a mistake, he's fine, but you don't always have that luxury. He spawns Dark Hearts by collecting Dark Hearts, and if you make a mistake, he generates more bosses, which means that when a boss is generated for you, there's probably going to be an awful lot of Dark Hearts knocking around. So as soon as you make 1 mistake, you're probably dead, unless one of the better ones has appeared. Is it Burgles or Burglies? Kind of cute, actually. If you collect a Dark Heart, you lose an item. And if you make a mistake, then the visible Dark Hearts on the screen, you will lose that number of items. And if you don't have any items, you lose life instead of losing items. Yeah, he can drain your entire inventory and then kill you. He can be bad. If you've got a lot of items, you have some protection. Doomspeed generates Harbingers, and Harbingers cost more. He's awful. He's absolutely awful. If you make a mistake, all Harbingers activate, as well as at the end of the level. But Harbingers will probably kill you. If you see Doomsteed, you're probably dead. Lost Shaman is a bit of a strange one. He drains magic items when you take a Dark Heart, and increases the minimum power of the level. But and when you use magic items, generate more Dark Hearts. So he's about fiddling around with the power and with the magic item, with your mana. So he's not really all that bad, unless you're really reliant on a particular item. Bruises sucks. He generates Dark Hearts, and if you touch the Dark Heart, you take damage. Bruises will probably kill you at some point. Plus, from his dialogue, he's a complete idiot. I mean, he's a gorilla. Really hate Bruises quite a lot. I think Bruises and Doomsteed are up there on my 2 least favourite, actually. Kronos. I've not run into Kronos, but take 3 damage every minute, and if you collect a Dark Heart, increase that timer by 20 seconds. So 20 seconds towards taking more damage. Collecting other loot resets the timer. Just ration your coins and be careful. It won't be too bad. And then Shade conceals cells. Shade's awful. Shade is like the cryptic mod, but he does a lot of it. So yeah, don't like Shade at all.